As the host of Neutralize the Mama Trauma podcast, I am delighted to be able to bring you this podcast. My name is Wendy Lopez, and I would like to introduce myself to you. I specialize in helping people overcome their emotional blocks through different techniques, through emotional empowerment coaching and compassionate healing light facilitation. As a mom who has experienced narcissistic trauma, I help moms eradicate self-doubt in order to regain self-confidence to elevate their status both at home and at work. In our podcast, we discuss people's struggles, triumphs, and failures. We dive deeper into self-love, self-compassion, self-acceptance, and mindful, holistic tips. In every episode, I hope that you can take a golden nugget of advice and apply it to the journey of motherhood in order to raise your level of awareness. Welcome to Neutralize the Mama Trauma podcast, where you find healing and creative mental thought advice from experts on past pain, narcissistic experiences, and trauma. Today, I'd like to welcome our guest, Kristina Lucia. Is an artist, creator, and author who ignites the imaginations of children and their parents through her limited edition Animals and Touching Storybooks. Her humble beginnings in a small farm town, there was only one traffic light, sparked her creativity at a young age, and adopted home of New York City keeps her inspired daily. Curiously Curated Creations of Kristina Lucia features a magical array of warm, cuddly, and comforting creatures, along with storybooks that help parents and kids improve their communications and deepen their relationships. Whether she's strutting down Fifth Avenue in Manolos or curled up on her sofa in slipper socks, Kristina is ready to create a masterpiece. Her crochet, hooks, and knitting needles are always within reach to whip up anything from stuffies to baby sweaters, while her kitchen table is often covered with her watercolor paints and brushes or freshly baked cookies. After an injury forced her to reconsider her 100-mile-an-hour corporate career, Kristina realized her true path to be the artist she was meant to be. The door of curiously curated creations of Kristina Lucia opened up, her receiving a sign from her mom. The journey began in November 2019. Kristina is also a competitive dancer, an avid reader, and travel buff. When she's not working, you can find her in the studio dancing her cha-cha with her nose in a book or exploring a new destination. Why is communication between parents and child so vital? So I'm so happy to have you on here, Kristina. I mean, this is so beautiful and so encompassing with the podcast Neutralize the Mama Trauma, because as mothers, single mothers, divorced mothers, career mothers, we can have changes in our life that we might not understand. And when we have those changes, we have a lot of stress involved. But I love that you have the ability to connect with the children through story, right? And so the whole mission of this is to help moms be able to connect with themselves first, and then they connect on a deeper level with the children. So I'm so happy to have you here and share your story.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And you hit it right on the nose. Someone asked me earlier today about my books and said, well, who are they for? And I said, they really are for both the child and the parent. Yes. Because the more I talk about why I write what I write and how I got there, the biggest thing I've learned from my own personal healing journey, as well as my journey of becoming an author and with these books coming in spring of 2023, is that we all work from the same feelings list. If we strip away our religions, our sexual orientations, nationalities, where we're from, where we live, we all work from that same feelings list, and we're all humans at the end of the day. And so when I set out to write these books, and I was already blogging before I declared myself an author. And I still am an avid blogger as well. I actually write not just one, but two blogs now. That's really big, really important to me. And again, it's the same thing. It's about focusing on the humanity and focusing on the feelings. And the stories do have that calculation in between. And it's been through working through my own traumas that I was able to get to this point now where I can talk about the traumas without being angry about it, but also share how it can turn into something beautiful. And how it does open a door, because it's so easy to let that inner child or that critical parent come out and sabotage. And we have a choice. And we don't have to choose the choice of sabotage. We can take a step back and work through those feelings of negativity, feelings of positivity. I actually have Bella, the main character, with me right now, because I don't just illustrate, I also create the stories as well. The toys as well, excuse me. And when I write about her, that's exactly what's happening. She goes through the ups and downs, but also there's a moment of relatability where the parent shares with her, well, I get scared, and not as I got scared as a little kid. No, I get scared now as a grown woman, as a grown man. And it's that relatability, because we forget, you think, going from a crib to a big bed, how big a deal is? Well, it is a big deal, but it's the same way. It's a big deal for us going to a new job environment. It's a big deal the way it is for us shifting houses, or you mentioned before you shifted states, living in different states, and it's no different. We're all feeling those feelings. And when we're able to take a step back and relate to each other and acknowledge each other's feelings and give space for them to be acknowledged and give space for them to be worked through, it does take a huge shift. And that's what I'm going for. I'm going for both the parents and the children in that sense, because we all have feelings. We all have them.
Yes. And one of the things I tell my clients, that it doesn't matter if you're 40 or you're 50, you still have that little child, little self within you, parenting.
Yep.
And then sometimes the parenting can trigger from what the children, because they have their own independent personality.
Absolutely.
And then, it can either clash, trigger, or we can see it from a different perspective of where this is all coming from and how we're supposed to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually what happened for me in my personal life, is that I realized that, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the reason why I focus on communication is because I did grow up in a dysfunctional family. My mom, unfortunately, lost my mom in 2019. And she suffered from many anxieties as well as narcissism.
Oh, she did.
And I realized, I imagine many of your clients and people listening, they know that's a very scary disease and it's not very pleasant to deal with. And when I began my healing journey, even prior to finding out my mom was ill, much prior to her passing. And the longer she's gone, the more I realize I need to respect her choices. I realized that she was sick. And I also realized too that traumas were passed on to her. And because she didn't work through those traumas, they were being passed on to me. However, I also realized I have a choice. I have a choice to work through my traumas. I have a choice to rise above. I have a choice to be a better human being. And I'm proud that I made that choice. And by recognizing the choices, perfect example, Christmas is my favorite holiday. I love Christmas. And I, if you know the New York area, not everyone goes, but a lot of New Yorkers go. There's this area of Brooklyn, Diker Heights, and it's crazy decorated. I mean, they hire people to decorate their houses. Like it's that insane.
Oh, yes.
And
Right.
it's,
Big in
you know what I'm
Texas
talking
too.
about? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's pretty insane. And I
Mm-hmm.
had this moment last year where I was walking and I got angry. I was like, Mom, like you should be here with me. And then my inner voice went, shh, she was sick. And it's that moment of compassion. It's that
Mm-hmm.
moment of giving her space. It's that
Mm-hmm.
moment of choosing to not choosing to respect her choices, you know. And I also realize now that I'm further down my healing path. And I'm not saying I still don't get angry. I'm not saying it's
Right.
perfect. I'm not saying there are moments where I cry and I miss my mom, because I do. And her anniversary is right around the corner. And so
Mm-hmm.
I realized I have to get my act together, because I just know for me, I like to be around people. I like to be happy on her death anniversary. And I want to respect her. I want to respect her because
Yeah.
I realize now she was getting up every day wanting to be the best version of herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why she chose not to do the kind of work I'm doing. I don't know, but I need to respect her for that though. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not in a place to throw stones at her. And it's ironic because one of our biggest fights among many was that she
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be a school teacher because that's what she was.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like you said, people get triggered and I triggered her left and right. My mom
Right.
survived on control. She liked
Mm-hmm.
controlled situations. So that's why schools are really good for her. And our love languages did not align. I
Mm-hmm.
look like her, but personality wise, I can be very much like her. I'm very different from her. I'm an avid traveler and she had this fear of planes and traveling. She liked things the way she wanted. And I was the one that I'm the free spirit of the three kids. And I drove her up a wall. And I am a
Right.
creative. I'm a creative in every shape and form. And she
Right.
wasn't. And that always bothered
Wow.
her,
So
I
there
have to
was
say.
no containing you.
And like I said, she wanted me to be a school teacher because everyone in my family, both immediate and extended, they're either an engineer, a lawyer, or they're in the school system somehow. And then there's me. And I was like, absolutely not, Ma. I'm not becoming a teacher. Da, da, da. And I joke now because here I am, both writing and illustrating my children's series.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep on joking, like, yeah, my mom's getting the last laugh now. But as somebody else pointed out to me, I'm going to reach so many more people by writing the books, because the
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to go into different schools, the opportunities to go to
Right.
libraries, opportunities to speak to podcasters like yourself,
Yes.
I'm not meant to be contained. I'm not meant to be in one room all
Right.
day. I know me. I'm not a school teacher personality. Like I respect it. My sister is a counselor. She was in this classroom and is now a counselor. She's amazing at what she does. Like her boss loves her. Like as older sister, I am so proud of her. All my cousins are teachers. Like I'm proud of them. Like I respect them, but I just know me. I don't belong in there. And so so what you said, I'm listening to you say all that. I'm like, oh my God, like I am so that kid that triggered my mom. I drove her
Yes.
crazy.
And we need to hear this other side of
Yeah.
how, it's all over your bio of your expression of your self-expression is very creative. And it's like clipping the wings of the child by not letting them express their unique self.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And thank goodness that you were such a strong-willed child.
Yeah.
You're making your difference.
Yeah.
You see,
Yes.
so it was this conviction within you. And so parents, and that's another thing that I've learned on my healing journey, is to be open to the wisdom that the little ones bring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just because we're an adult doesn't mean we know everything. Maybe we do
Yeah.
know, like, that could be harmful for you, that, it's like guidance, but to stifle their gifts,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Right. Right.
so this is the movement that I'm in, about helping mothers unstifle themselves so then they can be open to the children's gifts. because that's how we'll
Yes,
have like healthier generations. So can you
absolutely.
tell us, Kristina, like where did you realize? Because I noticed like when I'm working with some moms, like they don't realize like they needed this help to shift themselves,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah.
where did you realize like I need to do something different?
I I remember it very clearly. It was a May morning. I knew my mom was mad at me, and I'll never forget calling her. And she just went on. We got into the biggest fight we've ever gotten into. And it
Mm,
ended with her telling me I had severe mental health issues and I need to seek help. And I got off the phone. I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
so she
I
told you
reached,
that you had severe mental issues?
yeah, she told me that I had severe mental health issues.
Okay.
And it was a low blow. It really hurt. She told me you never call enough, you never visit enough. It was all the traumas, all the things she'd been saying since I was a little girl. I was
Oh,
constantly being
and how old were
told.
you there when she told you all this again?
I was under 10 when she was telling me most of these things. I
Oh,
never took care of my
wow.
siblings enough. By the time I was 10, I cooked an entire meal for my family from scratch. And she criticized my chicken, saying the recipe wasn't a good one. By the time I was 12, I was making homemade pizza dough from scratch. And I think I made it once wrong because she told me, you should know better. I've been doing this for years with you. You should be more aware of this. So I watched her do it once and I never screwed it up again. And there were other things in the kitchen, the same thing. And so at this point, in my 20s, I noticed it. In my 20s, I noticed it when my grandma passed. So I'm my grandma's namesake, my mom's mom.
Okay.
And I noticed a major shift in our relationship. I noticed I would say something and she would just rage at me. And I was used to certain traumas. Like I was used to being told I wasn't good enough. I was used to being scolded for not knowing how to do things. But this was a step up. I remember her that visit. This is in my mid-20s. I remember her getting upset with me about using her washer. Like she was scolding me about the soap or something. And I sighed and she's like, don't sigh at me. I'm like, and after it just got worse and worse. So by the time I was 33, when we had that huge fight, it was a buildup. And I remember realizing I need to get help. I can't keep going through this. My mom, because I would ask other people for help and they
Okay.
kept telling me, you're imagining it, you're making this up, you have to stop getting so upset, da da da, like don't ask for
Mm,
sympathy. And so I met my therapist and I was with my therapist for 3 years. And the first thing she said is, honey, your mom's jealous of you.
yes.
And she said to me, what we're going to work on here is we're going to work on you being Teflon. We're going to work on it bouncing off of you. And within the 3 years of working with my therapist, I found my way into a landmark forum where I learned a lot of fundamentals. And
Mhm.
I also found my way into my current work, which I do, which is ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. What I realized from therapy, not only did my mom have anxieties and narcissism, but because those behaviors are what I refer to as a para-alcoholic,
Mhm.
where although my mom didn't have a visible drinking problem, it's the unkept promises. Even before my grandma passed, my mom invited me on a trip, for example. And the second she found out my sibling wanted to go on the trip, she uninvited me and said, no, you can't come. I'm bringing so and so. There were other things that she would give to me and she would promptly take back from me. And then I would never see her. It was like one thing was like when my grandma's ring and I never saw her wear it at my sister's wedding. So why she took it away from me, I don't know. I also was told no all the time as a child. And I
Mm,
watched my
yes.
siblings and other family members or even friends walk in the door. And the things that I was told no to, I
Mhm.
watched them. Oh, yeah, of course you can have that. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So it was
Mhm.
always this constant bullying towards me, which radiated into extended family as well. When I started doing, after I did Landmark, and then when I really started doing my 12-step work, I had another big fight with my mom. And my mom was having a bad day, and she was rambling a lot. And she was rambling. And I just couldn't take it. I kept trying to leave the room because it was wearing on me. It was like 3 hours of her rambling. And one of my siblings was there, and this individual did something, and I asked them, please don't do that. And they did. And I snapped because I was so tired from the rambling. And I was attacked by that individual. And I called for help and no one came. And my mom blamed it on me. And everyone stayed downstairs. It was a holiday, and everyone stayed downstairs breaking bread with this individual. And they all blamed it on me.
How old were you here?
36.
36. Wow.
And I remember on that car ride, my mom blaming it on me. And she was driving, and I was trying not to upset her because I didn't want to get into her to get into an accident. And she said, I want my daughter back. And I'm sitting right there, and all I could just think of in my head is, I'm right here, Mom. You just don't want me as I am. Fast forward, she passed 6 months later. And gratefully, our last words to each other were, I love you.
Okay.
And I do credit, I am grateful for the work. I keep the 12-step work because I have been able to improve my relationships with immediate family members. And it does scare me because the more I talk to people that knew my mom, they have these stories about my mom. And it's really only my mom's best friend that's aware that my mom did have anxieties and did have narcissistic tendencies. Because when I talk to Sue, like, she gets it. And I talk to other members and they say, oh yeah, your mom was just like you. She traveled all over like you. I'm like, no, she didn't. This year alone.
So that's like a different reality, huh?
Yeah, it's like she would hear what I did and make it her own. And there were other subtle things, like she would, as an adult woman, where she'd see something I was wearing and she wouldn't compliment me. But then the next time I see her, she'd be wearing a dress just like the one I had on the last time she saw me. And people saw it and nobody said anything. Everyone was like, Kristina, it's your fault. You're making stuff up. Stop it. And my mom's best friend, Sue, is the one that said, no, Kristina, I sensed it too. Like something was off there. So I didn't want my mom to go. I didn't.
Yeah, even though you had the suffering with her, right? Yeah. So see, that's the beauty of what I see with my clients, that they had the same like traumatic, suffering, love relationship with the narcissistic parent. The empath that you are, and such a soul sensitive that you guys can see beyond like the trauma that's being caused, because there's like this pure love. You see, because that's when love can transcend a trauma. Right? And such a special, and then your mother played like this role where it was to strengthen you, but we don't see it as that when we're going through it. So when was the moment that you saw, I am not what she's saying, I am this stronger person? Like when you accepted yourself, was there a shift when you started seeing yourself for who you were and not what your mom led you to believe who you were?
I would say that happened after my first meeting with my therapist.
Okay.
I would say it happened that early on, because when my mom told me I had severe mental health issues, I was like, no.
So she gave you the validation that you were
my therapist gave me the validation. Absolutely. Because I did not believe my mom. That was her. And I actually
Right.
brought that up to my mom quite a few years later. I said, Mom, you said this to me and it really hurt. She's like, and she did not, my mom denied it. She's like, I would never
Yes.
say that to you. I never said that. I'm like, you did, Mom, though. And that's where also the anxiety and narcissism comes out, because it says, for lack of a better analogy, it's almost like someone that's possessed. It's like they say things to you, but they don't really mean it.
Yeah, I believe that.
And it's very painful. It's very painful because it does prevent communication, because you can't hear each other halfway. Whereas when I had a heart to heart with another family member of mine this past Christmas, there were a lot of tears. It was a hard conversation to have, but I was able to turn to this family member and say, this really hurt me, because something was said to me by this member of the family that was really painful, and they apologized to me. And it was a really beautiful moment. It wasn't like, I'm right moment. It was a cathartic bonding moment, because I was able to calmly say, I'm hurt. And they were able to acknowledge it was a knee-jerk reaction. I shouldn't have said that. Again,
Right.
It was them acting out. It wasn't, unfortunately. And again, this is also where the childhood traumas come in. It was very common that I was the punching bag for everybody.
Right.
I was the one that was blamed. I was the one that was beaten up. And it did carry over into other areas in my life. And that's the other painful part, is that for years, I accepted the fact that people blamed me and told me it was my fault. And now, as an adult woman, and with my 12-step work, I'm like, well, you know what? I just don't visit those people anymore.
Right.
I just don't. I'm not trying to be rude, but you know what? I just know when I go into that house, they're going to praise another family member that I still haven't worked things out with. They're going to glorify this. They're not going to believe me. They're not going to listen to me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk away. And I actually had a bad disagreement one of the holidays last year with someone that was of my mom's generation. And for the sake of privacy, that's why I talk about things generally, because I don't want to embarrass any family member. But this was a member of my extended family, and I get they had things they never worked out with my mom. I respect that, but this individual was blaming it on me, and we had a fight. And similar to the fights I have with my mom, everyone's in the other room ignoring it while I'm facing the dragon. And you know what? I'm a grown woman. I'm not going there this year. I'm avoiding it. I'm like, no, I'm not avoiding it. I just choose not to put myself in that position. If they can't respect me as an intelligent, successful entrepreneur, attractive woman, intelligent woman I am, I don't belong in that room. I'm not putting myself in that line of fire.
Right. And the beauty is when you mentioned about childhood trauma, that follows us into adulthood. And in my experience with my own healing, mine was more on a holistic level. I was able to then, the inner child in me was able to understand, and then it allowed me to communicate as an adult to the people that were being offensive to me. Right. And so that's empowering, that you, as you said, that you can walk now into, that house and be like, okay, that's not mine. That's I'm not going to take that in as mine. And so this is what I love about mothers being able to be proactive in receiving some type of therapy, whether it's holistic or traditional, whatever it, calls to the person. But the point is that empowering those emotions of the child within, because when you empower those emotions, then the adult you can speak from that empowerment. And so that is the shift that you had.
Absolutely. And the more I do my inner child work, the more I recognize it in others and also myself. And, my little girl, and that's the thing too, the little girl, the critical parent, critical adult, they're always there. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter how much healing. And that's the thing too, is working on living with them, not against them. And when they
Mm-hmm.
do come out,
Right.
it's taking responsibility. Okay, I need a break.
Mm-hmm.
I like perfect example. I have a friend that suffers from a brain injury, so she sometimes gets seizures and whatnot. And to keep herself healthy, she has a limit of like 2 meetings a day, and then she has to rest. It's like she has some rhythm.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, don't feel bad, because after 3 Zooms, I'm exhausted. I can't do any more.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually schedule my day around it. So don't. And she said, I'm so grateful you said that. I'm like, yeah. And like Rista is a perfect example. I had four different things on Zoom or in front of the computer. And I'm also illustrating right now, because I'm working on illustrating. I'm in the last phase of illustrating book 4. So that way I can move on to book 5 before the end of the year. And
Mm-hmm.
I had all this work I wanted to get done last night. But I'm like, you know what? I need to lie down and rest my eyes. And I did. I passed out for 5 hours. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you needed, your body needed that.
exactly. And so the more I do this work too, I realize I'm human. Like
Yes.
I have a boundary too. Even though I'm
Mm-hmm.
healthy and I'm young, like I'm not the Energizer Bunny. Yes, there are some
Right.
nights where I can work till 2 a.m., but there's other nights where
Right.
I'm out by 5 and like I
Yes.
just need to take a break. And there's nothing
Yes.
wrong with that. And so
No,
that's
it's
like,
not.
I feel like, yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I like what you said about boundaries. So inner boundaries, when you're doing, this inner healing, you learn about boundaries and inner boundaries, because there's like outside boundaries, there's personal boundaries. It is what's going
Yeah.
to keep you safe, right? From
Yes.
people
Yes.
invading your space, your mental space, your body space,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's very healthy.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about, with your work, why do kids and parents need to color together? What?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I actually have a gift for your audience. I have
Oh,
my pumpkin
great.
activity kit out.
Okay.
Yeah. So I always put a coloring drawing in everything I do, because coloring is meditative
Oh,
and it
okay.
allows for you to relax. And it's something
Okay.
you can do with your children. And
Okay.
it's a simple activity. And so let's say, case scenario, you have me and my mom. And
Mhm.
my mom was always like, I'm not creative. I'm not creative. Okay, but you can color. Anyone can color. And when we relax,
Mm.
it relaxes our mind and it relaxes our senses and it allows us to talk more freely. And it's also a great way to observe. It's a great way to observe
Mm.
what colors your kids picking. Are they more of a sticker person? Or are they more of a glitter person? Or if you want to teach certain lessons, it can do that as well. And I actually realized this because I'm actually chairing my ACA meeting this month.
Mhm.
And I almost cried. I almost broke into tears when I read this line during my portion where I was reading. But when you're
Mhm.
doing inner child work, they suggest you writing with your non-dominant hand. And when
Okay.
I read that, it brought me back to my early Christmases when my mom would write notes from Santa with her left hand. And
Oh,
I realized,
interesting.
oh, that was my mom. I had this moment of sympathy for my mom, because I
Uh,
realized again, like this is another way she was really trying. She was really working to be the best mom possible. So when you're
that's so
coloring with your
interesting.
child, that's like a perfect opportunity for you to nourish your inner child as well as the physical child in front of you. It's just a night, just a
Hmm.
calming way for you to be creative, for you to express.
Now that you said that, I believe I've done that twice. And because it's not perfect, it looks like a child's writing,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So I can
Yep.
see how that can correlate with what your mom was trying to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Is that like
Yes.
child's writing? And then now how you're saying that, to use it as an exercise with the inner child, that's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's like a
Like how
recent
the
discovery.
brain
Mhm.
and the motors and everything that goes along, but it's connected to like the inner child.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like
Mhm.
when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to share this when I talk about coloring. it's one of those things, because again, it's something anybody can do. So it goes back to where all the topics I focus on, like in my books. And I actually design a coloring book with every book. So when I illustrate, I have a 3-step process when I illustrate, where first I storyboard and then I ink those drawings. So that's the basis of my coloring book. And then I draw on watercolor paper and I do actual watercolors for the actual illustrated book. But I do feel strongly about the coloring for all these reasons and more, because it is that quality time moment. And also too, it's a non-screen time thing. In this day and age, we have so many screens, and
oh yes,
even though we're adults, communication is evolving constantly. We're always evolving our communication skills, how we listen, how we talk, etc. And children need that space to be able to communicate without a screen in front of them. But us as adults, we also need that refresher. And so sitting down at the table, no screens in sight, just crayons and markers and some paper, it's really special. Like, it's really a beautiful thing to do with your child. And also for you too. It's like the same benefits for your child and for you.
I love that. How about, you worked in corporate America, right?
Yes, I did. Yep.
And I worked in corporate America at one point. So I love this topic because I have clients myself that are in corporate America and then wanting to make the shift to work for themselves with their creativeness. Can you talk to us about being in corporate and taking a leap so they're being true to their soul?
Absolutely. So with corporate, I was living a double life while I was in corporate, meaning that I was doing my dancing in the evening and then working all day. And it got to be a little hectic. So when I was injured and had that time to think, I realized that I needed to combine both. The first step I took, that I actually took when I first decided to do this pivot, even before I knew I was going to start my own brand. Like, I thought my brand was going to come much later in the process. I'll be very honest. My career coach and I, Matilda, we sat down and made my transformational statements. And what a transformational statement does for you is it sets up a dream, but it also sets it to a point where it's reality. So that regardless of where you're going,
all right.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And like, I still have them framed like over on my side table right here. I always have them in sight. That was a really powerful first step. The other thing I found, and I'll be honest, this kind of was not too tricky for me because I love networking, obviously. Like, I love networking. I love talking to people.
Me too.
But just having conversation. Yeah, exactly. Just like having conversations, asking questions. And that, I will say though, what took me time to learn was how to stay connected with people. And when I was pushed even further into this pivot, when I lost my job in 2019, when I started the blog in 2020, that really was a game changer for me because I've been wanting to blog for a long time, just wasn't sure what, but also it gave me something to offer people. It gave me a point of value. Like what I just said, I have a gift for your audience, like that, the coloring drawing, the recipe, something of value that I can give. Before I had that, I was like, oh shoot, like, how do I stay in touch with them? I'm not best buds. I can't say, hey, I saw this and thought of you. Like, how do I genuinely stay in touch with these people?
Right.
And so that was a big thing. So whatever it is for you, finding something that you're creating or that you're developing that you can invite people on that journey for. I found that was like a really big thing for me. And then with that, as you start building your network, and this was like the next level for me. So now when I'm on podcasts like yours, it's no problem for me to say, hey, can I intro you to somebody? Like my brain just goes tick, 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 tick. And like, because once you hit the right button, you figure it out, but it definitely does take time, but that curiosity to keep exploring it and keep doing it. And the other big thing, and this actually is something I learned the hard way. Not, I would say I learned it the hard way, but I'm grateful that I kept this going. So another piece of information that my coach Matilda told me was, don't be afraid of your draft. Get it out there. If you're still holding on to your draft and you're happy with it, then you should have released it a while ago. And I say this because in the 3 years it's only been 3 years since I started my company. My 3rd year anniversary is actually my mom's death anniversary of all days. And so it's coming up soon. I changed my logo 3 times. I changed my social media 3 times.
Right.
The blog has evolved, but I'm working with this amazing marketing strategist right now, Melanie Hirschhorn, who I absolutely adore. If I hadn't gotten all my drafts out there, she wouldn't have been able to hit the ground running. I had on the ground running as fast as I am, I believe. Like, it's because I had drafts. It's because I had things.
Right.
I believe that I had things for her to work on and tweak.
Right.
I was able to hit it going. Yeah.
Right. And I just want to agree with you on that, because I have a coach who I work with, and she's always saying done is better than perfect.
Yes. Yes. Because you're not going to know until your audience sees it. Like, one of the biggest things I say, so when I first started the characters, I originally thought the bears were going to be the forerunners, and they're still on my website. I still create them, but I thought they were going to be the leads on it because they're named after my grandma and grandpa. And I thought, how perfect. But when I started showing people the array, they kept gravitating towards elephants. And so the boy elephant, Ezra elephant, he was always there.
Yes.
But then I thought, well, I have to have a girl elephant. So that's how Bella came to be. And Bella actually pushed it even further. So the story behind Bella is, when my friend had her little girl, Isabella, I decided to name the Lovey after her. And I kept to myself that Bella's my nickname, because growing up, and again, this is my mom's anxieties coming out. She told me that I was selfish on more than one occasion. Stop talking about yourself. Like, those are corrections I was constantly getting. So I was scared as an adult woman to admit that my nickname's Bella, even though somebody else coined it for me. Like, and multiple people call me. I'm from an Italian culture. A lot of people call me Bella. It's like a common nickname. And so I was scared. And then as I started writing, I realized, no, I'm writing about Mom and I. Was like, I need to own this. So my friend's toddler actually helped me identify with my inner child. Actually helped me step forward and say, no, this is Mom and I. Like, I need to own this, but again, it was from putting my characters out there and seeing my audiences gravitating towards elephants, and also recognizing, okay, again, it's going back to serenity prayer. Like, I say my serenity prayer in our meetings, we say it at the beginning and close, and give me the wisdom to understand the one is me. Like, I'm the one that can change. I can't change others. I can change me. Yes, so I made a choice to listen to my audience. So that was like really huge, and even now, I made a choice to listen to Melanie when she gave me adjustments on my social media. I made a choice to listen to my editor, Susan, when she looked at my draft of my there's going to be 15 books in all, and I'm working on 5 right now. So 3 of the 5 are solid, and then the other 2 I'm wrapping up. And again, I made that choice to hear her. I made that choice but at the same time, my editing process also, I'm proud to say, because of my healing work, I was able to have a strong conversation with her and say, no, this is why I'm doing this. When we went through my first draft, a lot of things were brought up to me, because at the time I was pursuing both traditional and self-publishing. And I was told, if you want to go traditional, you have to keep in mind there's 7 different genders out there. How are you including the genders? All the religions, there's this, you're Catholic, and there's a slight mention of blessings. And I'm proud of myself. And my editor, Susan Crossman is her name. She's absolutely amazing. For anyone out there looking for an editor, I can't speak highly enough about Susan, as well as Melanie and Matilda as well. But when I talked to Susan, I said, no, I need to stand by this. I am a straight Catholic woman. I was like, I need to write about what I know. And I said, I have several friends in the LGBTQ community. If I said that correctly, I hope I said that correctly. But I have friends that are gay, I have friends that are lesbians, and I'm very close to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spoken with all of them because some of them are married, some of them are parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking to them, they said, yeah, it would be awkward for you to write about a character that you're not in your stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would be awkward.
Right.
And it's me respecting that. And one of my friends in Texas that I was telling you about, like, he was one of the first ones that I brought it up to. And I told him, and I actually told his husband the same thing. I said, I feel if I really needed to delve into that, I would have to co-write with someone of your community, because just because you're friends with these people doesn't mean you understand all the different things. Like, there are, it's not my place. It's not my place to tell their story. And at the same time, me having this conversation with my editor, I felt it was my inner child standing up and saying, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not scared to say who I am. And I kind of went back to when I was a kid, and I remember when Ellen DeGeneres came out, and I admired her then, and I admire her now. And it makes me really sad now as an adult woman when I watch those interviews, because the people that are coming at her, in my point of view now with my work that I'm doing, it has nothing to do with her sexual orientation. It has to do with control. It has to do with people being right.
Mm-hmm.
She's a grown woman. She has every right to be out and who she is. And how is that any different than me? We need to, what she was demonstrating was the freedom to be who we are and to be true to ourselves. And I admire her work. I admire everything she's done from that moment, before that moment, in that moment, to the present moment, because she set an example of we should not be ashamed of who we are. It has nothing to do with orientations or race or religion. It's just a matter of, we should be respectful of who we are. We shouldn't be scared to say in front of a room, I'm of this religion, I'm of this sexual orientation. And so writing my books, my inner child has had to step up and say, nope, this is important to me. This is important to me to demonstrate. This is who I am.
I love it. Well, we can sit here and talk forever. Right. But one thing I want it to land with the audience, and it's something that you said from the very beginning, and it's been throughout the podcast that we've been having this conversation, and it's about choice.
Yes.
We need to make a choice. And I would invite, whoever's listening to really dig into getting the courage to make the decision or the choice needed to look at those parts that maybe are not so nice. But there's a quote that I love, that the way out is going in. Right. Yeah. And if we can go in, guess what? We're going to teach our children that it is safe to feel.
Yes. Right? Absolutely.
And if it's safe to feel, then we can make those choices without fear, but from empowerment.
Yes.
And then from the empowerment, just by making that choice, you can empower yourself to leap out of your current state, right, into a healthier state. And then, you're opening up a door that can open up opportunity, because then as a mother, you can leap out from, just that stay-at-home mom. I'm going to use me as an example. I was a stay-at-home mom and created my own business. And look, I have a podcast now.
Yeah. Yes.
And then, or a working mom can go from having, from corporate America into having her own business. Right. So if we can just open up ourselves to make the choice, like you say, we can expand so much on ourselves. And you're an example of that.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that so much. If it's okay, I actually like have something, what you said is so beautiful, because the first step in 12-step work is you acknowledge your
Okay.
higher power. And I personally,
Mhm.
this is also where I realized my mom and I had a lot of friction. So I am a practicing Catholic. However, my belief in
Okay.
God, my sense of faith, my sense of imagination, they all come to me very naturally. I never, it's a gift. Like I recognize that as a gift. It is a gift to have, to not have to question it, to know, like, I really do believe there is a God. If someone tells me there isn't, I just walk away. I'm like, okay, like you do you, I'll do me. Like, I'm not going to fight you,
Right.
but it
Right.
is a gift to have that kind of trust. And with that, imagination and faith also come very naturally to me, because there's no roadmap, there's no concrete, there's no solidity to
Yes.
it.
Right. Yes.
But because I believe in those things so naturally, step one of the 12 steps is a no-brainer for me. It's like, well, of course, why would you? And that's why I have to have patience with people. But the point of the first step that I've learned from being around people that are like opening, they're sharing about it and sharing about their work through the first step, is that when we believe in a higher power, whether it's God or it's another entity for you, you're releasing the control. And when you release the control, you realize you have a choice, and you also realize you have a responsibility.
Mhm.
And it's a very freeing experience. And again, that's also where my mom and I had friction, because my mom survived on control, even though she was a
Mhm.
devout Catholic, she was a practicing Catholic, all of that. But she needed to have control in order to feel safe. And
Mhm.
then
And you
there's me, the free spirited one.
right.
And I triggered it left and right as a child, as an adult woman. And I can't apologize for that, but I
Mhm.
do have to respect my mom's choice. That control is what she needed. And as much as I, as much as I want my mom here, as much as I didn't want her to go, I do take great comfort that she's safe now, that
Mhm.
she's free of those anxieties. And something, if we have the time really fast, I promise. So my mom always promised me we travel together, but for one reason or another, it never worked out,
Mhm.
because she doesn't invite me, or it just never happened. And she did invite me on this one trip, and I declined, because at that point her anxieties were so bad. And I just couldn't spend more than an hour or two with her without going insane. And I was like, I just could not go with her. It would have been a death sentence. And she got upset with me not going. But I was like, Mom, I didn't say anything. I just tabled it. I was a good daughter. I listened to all the stories. I looked at the pictures. I smiled. Like, I did my duty.
Mhm.
However, this past year, so I always go to Europe. It's like my favorite place to travel to.
Okay. Mhm.
I got a calling this year to go to Italy again. This year was my third time.
Mhm.
And I kept saying, while I was like getting close to the trip, I said, "Oh, it's my mom. My mom's telling me to go." Because something in my head went Cinque Terre, Cinque Terre. And so I hadn't been to
Mhm.
Florence yet. And so I was like, let me go to
Mhm.
Florence. I'll go to Cinque Terre.
Mhm.
And I'm walking through the Piazza on the first night. And I had this epiphany. I'm like, oh my God, Mom finally kept her promise, because she was there with me. And I know my
Wow,
grandma was
that's
with me too.
amazing. Oh my gosh.
And everything I did, I knew she could be there, because she had a fear of water, she had a fear of heights. And for anyone that's been to Cinque Terre, like, there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of heights. Florence can get really crowded. She didn't like crowds. And I knew she was there with me. And I got
Yeah.
to do so many beautiful things in Florence and Cinque Terre. And it was really lovely. It was just really great knowing she was there with me. It was
Yeah.
really great knowing that she did love me. She just
Yeah.
couldn't always communicate it the way she wanted to. And
Yeah.
I wrote about this in my blog, and I share it
Oh, I
now
love
for
that.
the other women. Yeah, because I share it too, because for the other women out there that are working through their traumas and are working through that
And I'm in
with
grief
their
too.
mom,
Yes.
there
Mhm.
is, because I know I shared a lot about my mom today, obviously. Like, obviously, I knew that coming into this. Like, I wouldn't have, if I didn't feel comfortable, I wouldn't say it.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
but I do feel it's important to share that with the audience as well, to say there is something beautiful. There was love there. There was always love there. It
Mhm.
just wasn't always communicated. And I'm grateful that I've been doing this work, because it did open my heart to realize my mom is sending me signs of love. She is sending me
Right.
signs
And
to
I
let me know. Yeah.
Right. And I love that
Yes.
you to end the podcast with that, because it's, the role that the parent did can feel a little bit, destructive, but that you were able to
Yeah.
feel, a promise that was made, and you are so sensitive, which I said before, like you're
Yeah.
such, you're
Yeah.
sensitive, your soul is so sensitive that you pick up on these nudges, right? And
Yeah.
you follow it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you went, and your mother was with you. So I work with when spirits transition, and her being with you, I want to share with the audience is that control that they were in this human incarnation, they're in spirit now. There is no control. So that love that you felt
Yes.
is that love that she is. But
Yeah.
because we come
Yeah.
into the world with our own, her parents and whatever she endured is ingrained. And this is the reason why I'm doing this work, is to break these cycles and patterns,
Yes.
beginning with us,
Yeah.
and we can pick up narcissistic traits too. They might be
Yes.
mild,
Yep.
they might be a little bit up there, but it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a programming that we collect from our parents, and then we think it's natural to intimidate our children,
Yep.
right? Or we think it's natural
Mm-hmm.
to create fear, so there's control.
Yes.
But at the end
Yes.
of the day, you were in Italy, and you felt that love, you felt that
Yeah.
control wasn't there, and you're so sensitive that you can see beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's like
Absolutely.
spiritual maturity, that's like emotional maturity,
Yeah.
that is like a different evolution.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Well, the other thing too that I'll share really fast. So I did decide to take a pen name for
Okay.
my book. So my baptismal name is Kristina Lucia. That's why that's my
Okay.
middle name. I am my grandma's namesake. But I
Yes.
did choose my mom's maiden name as my pen name. So on my
Oh,
books, it will read my coloring books, like my digital coloring books right now already
yes.
have it on there, but it reads Kristina Lucia Pisa. That's my mom's maiden name.
Oh,
And
wow.
the first person that I told I was doing this was my sister
Mm,
Laura. And so it really was a
yeah.
beautiful moment.
Yeah.
So that's the thing
Because you're
too, as
encompassing her in your work,
yeah. So
right?
that way mom and grandma and mom will be on it. And just a little funny story. So my and if my mom could speak to us right now, she'd be like, Kristina, your middle name is in there, right? Because your grandma's gonna have a fit if she's not first. Like
Yeah.
she's gonna have a fit if like
Right.
you're mentioning her before me, right? Because she's gonna
Right.
have a fit. Like I know they're both listening to this right now. Like
Right.
they're nudging each other. They're both, and they're also nudging each other. My grandma's like, "This is your daughter." My mom's like, "No, this is your granddaughter. This is you.
Right.
Like this is you."
Right.
Yeah, but I
That's
feel
so,
it's important too for my healing is
yes, it is. Yeah,
to
absolutely.
involve them. I
Yeah.
mean, my grandma, I knew nothing but love. I mean, but with my mom, I do believe she's proud that I'm doing this work, so I can start, like you said, so I can start breaking this cycle. I'm not saying I'm going to
Mhm.
be perfect. I'm not saying I'm going to
Right. No,
be the
yeah, we're
perfect mom or
humans. We're not
anything,
here to be perfection. Yes.
but if I can set an example, and I am seeing a difference in my relationships, I'm seeing it has opened the door for this. Like I wouldn't be able to do this kind of work if I wasn't doing
Absolutely.
this healing work. Like it goes two hand in hand. Like it's
Yes,
just not, it's
exactly.
not possible.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, such a pleasure to have you, Kristina. I'm
Thank
gonna have you give
you.
me all your links, and people can,
Yes.
meet your work, meet who you are, and
Yes.
hopefully maybe we'll do another podcast together, because I really
I'd
do
love
like
that.
the fact that you touched a little bit about, I call it religious trauma.
Mhm.
I have some of that too, so I would like to
Yeah.
get together on that as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Thank you. Oh, thank
All
you so much for having
right.
me. Bella loves guesting too, so she's happy to be here as well.
Okay, Bella loves guesting. Okay. Oh, well, thank you so much. And
Thank
everybody,
you.
welcome Kristina into our podcast, and we will have some more special speakers. Thank you for taking the time to listen to Neutralize the Mama Trauma podcast. If you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. It would also mean the world to me if you're able to take a moment and rate and review my podcast on how it was helpful to you. Also, please connect with me on my social media platforms. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next episode.